Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another very interesting session on GETI Talks. My name is Shilpi and I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. I have Mr. Sumit Arora today, who's going to talk about a very important topic of these days in the 21st century, which is the life skills. But then, why are life skills so relevant in today in this very century, and how do we develop them in students? So that is what Mr. Sumit Arora is going to answer, who is the director of the School Matters in Pune. He has been, a career of spanning around 25 years, and he has trained 50,000 plus people in the area of soft skills, behavioral skills, and now he has been, for the past 5 years, been working with more than 3,000 children. So now you must have understood why he is the expert, the best person to talk about life skills. The classes are necessary in school, but not sufficient. So thank you, Mr. Arora, for joining in, and thank you for joining the disruptive education movement started by Dr. Sunita Gandhi. Here, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shilpi. Good speaking to you. I would begin my discussion by talking about life skills, and I would talk about where this came from, why life skills is important, who brought about this thought of life skill, and apart from that, what is life skill? What are various models which came in? Then our role as an educator, as a parent, whoever you are observing this webinar. So what this is our role, what we should be doing, what the classroom should be like, and then maybe we could have a couple of questions towards the end. And Q&A is something which is more important, which we would look at, because that's something where every genius comes out, right? So life skills is something which was developed by some people who really thought that schools are not providing the things which are required for life. And maybe that was a myth, maybe that was their assumption, maybe they were right, but they coined this word as life skills, thinking that, okay, the skills which are required for real life, not for classroom, not for schools, but real life is something which we should look at. Now, when this started getting coined, it was coined by the people of the world, that is the real world, if I may call it, the academics world and the non-academics world, the real world. And these were the guys who were the industry guys. These were the guys who were working, who were the business people, who were the industries. And they thought these are the skills which we require. So they treated human as resource. And they said, okay, the schools and the colleges create these resources and make them ready for us. And when they come to us, we have to hire them, get work out of them, want them to be productive. And what skills do we need? So the skills kept on changing from the Industrial Revolution till the IT revolution, and even today in the information world. And these were the guys who started defining those skills. So there are certain models which these people have defined, which these people have talked about as life skills, as 21st century skills, which are important. Now the time has come, which is pre-COVID and post-COVID world. So they talk about skills which are pre-COVID and post-COVID and so on. So let me take you to a few models. One of the models which was formed was by World Economic Forum, their new vision for education, 2015, which defined these 21st century skills as this way, as you can see on the screen, right? So these 21st century skills, they divided in three parts. One was the first foundational literacies, then competencies, and then character qualities. Quite a good broad spectrum of division, wherein they said, okay, the core basic skills like literacy, that they should be able to read, write, numeracy, that is arithmetic, mathematics, the science approach of thinking, the scientific way of thinking, then computers and information technology, financial literacy, and even cultural and civic literacy. So being aware of various cultures as globalization is happening, so be aware that the world is one city and and then everybody is a global citizen and taking care of each other's cultural needs, aspects, etc., were the primary one, the first one, as you can see on the screen in that 1 to 6, first left side, foundational literacy. Then the second came is the orange one, the competencies, which were more or less defined as those 4 C's, which were very prominently and
Sumit,
wherever.
uh, Sumit, sir,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
slides are not moving. You are not. The slides are not moving.
The slides are not moving. Okay, let me try doing it again. Is it moving now? No. No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me try again. So here you go. Yes. Now is it on the second screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the second slide which I was talking about, the literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT, financial and cultural, the first part of it. The second is competencies. We're talking about the critical thinking, problem solving, the creativity, the communication, and the collaboration. So these were the 4 C's very much highlighted as competencies per se, and then the character qualities, or the qualities which are inherent in a person, which you talk about, like the curiosity, the initiative, the grit, or the persistence to do something continuously, not just to start something as an initiative, but to complete it as a part of being persistent, being adaptable, being ready to change in this new world, this volatile world, etc. And the leadership skills, that is, the person is able to lead himself, lead other people, be visionary, look beyond what is obvious, etc. And finally, again, the social and awareness, cultural awareness, which were also mentioned in the foundational literacy, like the cultural and the civic literacy part of it. So this was one broad model which was presented, and then it was the education leaders were invited to comment on it and to imbibe it into their schools. And this is happening since long, but this is something which is lifelong process which keeps happening. The next model which we talk about is going to be the OECD model. As you can see, the circular thing on the screen, which talks about in the center the 21st century learner, and literacy and numeracy is the core in the center part of it. And then there are various different blocks or dimensions, which we may call it. The bottommost talks about communication. Then if I go clockwise, then it goes to digital literacy, then lifelong learning and personal management, even collaboration and leadership is highlighted, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, innovation, social responsibility, global awareness, environmental awareness. So there are a lot of things which are common. Something which was digital literacy, not mentioned in the previous model. And then they said, what is the outcome of this? The outcome of this is 3 core. And then they talked about the engaged thinker. If you see on the right side top part of it, the circle, the ethical citizen, and the entrepreneurial spirit. So these are the 3 outcomes which was expected, which was defined by OECD, that is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. So this was the second model which came up. Then there was one more model which came up, which is the Indian model. So as to we call it, the board, the education leaders who imbibed it, CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education in India, who said, okay, we will define it. And they did all the research. They took all the data from OECD and World Economic Forum and WHO, and they created something which you can see on the screen, that the 21st century they divided in learning skills, literary skills, and life skills. In learning skills, they had the 4 C's, which was critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. In literacy skills, they had the IMT part of it, which was information literacy, the media literacy, and the technology literacy. So media came here as an additional part of it, right? And then the life skills were also The character values which we're talking about came in the flexibility, the leadership, the initiative, the productivity, and the social skills. So that's the flips, FLIPS. So CBSE defined for its school, for its board, these as the 21st century skills. So though the name has everything in skills, actually it also has certain other elements which are involved apart from skills. But to look at it as life skills, it seems to be more measurable, and that is the reason why skills was something which was highlighted. Let me take you to one more model of it. Yeah, the final model of it, I promise. So in this final model, they divided it into three things. They said, okay, life skills, literally skills, and learning skills. So let me have these as three different models. And again, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, the same four C's came in. The literacy skills, information, media, and technology came in. And then life skills, it was flexibility here, there it was called adaptability, leadership common, initiative there, here common. Productivity was a word which came in, and social skills. So interpersonal skills, social skills is something which came up. So this is how we defined the working people, the world defined models, skills, or their requirement for what we call as education people, or the schools, or the teachers, or the parents, that this is something which we want your kids to develop in. Now, this all is very helpful when we really look at it. Okay, yes, sab aana chahiye. The challenge begins is, how do I really develop this? Is this the only skills part that I have to develop in a child, or is there something more? And please remember, skills only kills. This is a very, very, very important sentence which we all need to remember. Skills only is something like a monkey which is trained and has a machine gun in his hand. So if I train somebody to do certain things, I give them all the tools, etc. But where are the values? Where is the attitude? Where is the knowledge behind it? If all that is not there, it's more like an animal instinct, that every animal also has the skills. They have the survival skills, they have a lot of other skills, which is reproductive skills, and so many things. But what about the emotions, the feelings, the empathy, and all that is equally important. So though it is called as skills, but majorly when I look at it, this is the cash model which we look at. What is that cash model? The cash model is all about building knowledge, K, attitude, A, skills, S, and H, habits. So we look at a holistic development of the student or a child or even an individual, where we look at helping the child build knowledge, that is learning a lot of things which he is not aware of, building from existing knowledge, using step-by-step approach of expanding his horizon, his perspectives, etc., building on his attitude, beliefs, values, etc. Then the skills part of it, that is the doing part of it. And then once he does the doing part of it, finally it comes that it becomes a part of his habits, his behavior, his personality. And this overall is something which we look as the KASH, or the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits part of it. Now, having said this, let's look at what happens in schools, or what actually happens when a school system, which is a traditional school system, which is happening from many years, brings in the development. Everyone is interested in developing, but how the structure is, what the format it brings about, how much efforts or how much focus is on each of them. So let's look at how much efforts or what is the focus in schools on which of these four areas. So as you can see on this pyramid, which has just popped up on the left hand side, it shows huge focus on knowledge, a little less focus on skills. But that's true. We have a lot of theory lectures and a few practical lectures, right? And that's where this pyramid holds very true. And then we have focus on habits as well, right? Come on time, be disciplined, follow these following rules. So we form certain habits. And then comes on the top is the attitude part of it, where we mostly assume as schools that attitude to acha ban hi jayega. Though attitude cannot be taught, it is rather caught, and the caught happens when the student sees how the behavior of the teachers is around, what is the environment, what experiences he gets. And we do a lot of curricular, co-curricular activities where we say, okay, we will be trying to build the attitude of the students, but practically the focus is less. But on knowledge, yes, the focus is high, because that's something which is easily measurable, and the scorecard talks about it, the result talks about it. Skills, yes, the experiments and the practical things we do, solving problems, um, presentations, communication skills, high focus, definitely yes. Habits, a bit of it. It finally depends upon the culture of the school, how disciplined the school is, how much, what kind of habits the school wants to develop, if they have a framework of habits, etc. or not, and so forth, right? Now, let's look at what happens at home. At home, the focus is more on habits. Bachpan se, from the child's birth, there are parents who are really looking at forming habits, forming routines for the child, etc. Morning itne baje utna hai, sham ko ye karna hai, dophar mein ye karna hai, and kind of stuff. And then they try to build knowledge as well. They buy books, they get VCDs nowadays, games, activities, apps to help them build this. And skills is something which they feel extra classes or schools will develop. Knowledge base schools develop karte hain, but they bring in extra things apart from what school comes is. And bichara attitude remains on the top here as well. Attitude is not focusedly taught. It is kind of caught. जो सीख जाएगा, जो नहीं सीखेगा क्या करे. And that is something which happens when we really look at both the places. Now, when we look at habits as well, when I talked about the framework part of it, we really do not have something called as a framework of habits, though I recommend the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is one very wonderful book which has been written for teens and for small children by his son, Sean Covey. And it gives us 7 different habits which could be imbibed in our children and which could act as a very wonderful framework even for our children. So this is something which builds in. And then the question comes up is, if I'm looking at holistic development, if I'm looking at attitude, if I'm looking at skills, if I'm looking at knowledge, does this really help me? Is there a way where I can really look at the stuff, and can it be possible that I do it um, in the life skills model? Can I just build it on the life skills model? The answer to it is really no. You just cannot build it on the life skill model. You really need to have a model for it. So what could be the model for it? And the question when it comes that if there is there a model for it, and if there is a model for it, let me share with you a small model which comes in a small format I have, and maybe this model would help you look at the holistic development of the child. Let me just share this model with you. Here it comes. And this holistic development model defines just not skills. It also looks at attitude. It also looks at beliefs, values. It looks at overall development of the child, right? And when it looks at overall development of the child, it becomes critical for us to look at how and where we can develop it. So I'll just try and share my screen again. And till that time, if you have any questions in between, if there are some people who have logged in and who would like to ask, ma'am, if you have certain questions, you can bring that up. I'm just trying to share my screen till then. Shilpi?
Yes. So in the meanwhile, for a layman who are watching, people who are like not into education primarily, when we say life skills,
Okay.
what are they? Just a very simple question, because we are listening to this term day in day out. But in a very simple way, can you define for people what is life skill? What would you give examples for life skills?
Some problem. This is sad. Am I audible? No,
Yes.
yes. Am I hung?
Have you closed the PPT from the window? So, in the meanwhile, can you answer the question that we just had put up earlier? I think there is a network issue on his part. We can wait for 2 minutes, and those who have joined and somebody, yes, Mr. Sanjay Kulkarni, he is talking about life skills. You joined late, and as you want to know the topic, it is life skills necessary in school but not sufficient. So maybe he's going to rejoin. Just let's wait for 2 or 3 minutes more. Okay, I believe there is some issue on his part. We'll wait for another minute, but then after that, we'll have to close the session. So he had talked about life skills, and okay, he's logging in. He's about to join us, and he had been telling us why life skills are, important in today's life more than just simple education that is being imparted, and what are the type of life skills and how do they? Here he is. I think he'll be able to tell us.
Sorry, got disconnected and back.
So there was a question.
Yes,
Um,
please.
uh, they want to, like, I was asking you that very same question. For a person who's not primarily into education, when we talk such a lot about life skill, it's a term being used off and on. Would you like to define it in very simple words? What are life skills that we are talking about?
Okay. Wonderful. Yes. So when we define life skills, when we want to talk about actually what is a human development, we look at child, and when we say, okay, I want to develop this child, so we say, okay, I want to give him some knowledge. And then when I give certain knowledge, I want that knowledge to be applied. When knowledge wants has to be applied, it has to be done. When it has to be done, it is all about skills. Now, when I look at skills which are really useful for me in a day-to-day life, it is normally called as life skills. As simple as the skills which would really help me feed myself is the first life skill. The skill which would help me take care of my body is another life skill. Skills which would help me think in a better way is the third life skill. Skills which would help me feel better is the feeling part of it, the emotional life skills part of it. So these would be the things. Then career, when I want to go ahead and do something in life, those would be the career skills, which would be a part of life skills. The only difference is when we talk about skills, it is all about doing. What about the being? And that is something which we are looking at over here. So it is just
Yeah.
not about doing, it is also about being. So it is about the feeling part of it, and then it is about the attitude, how I look at it. Like I got disconnected a few minutes before, and if I start cursing the internet, if I start getting tensed, oh, मेरी तो इज्जत ही खराब हो गई, आज ही होना था. This is the attitude part of it, right? This is not related to skills. This is not related to IT skills. But this is my attitude. If I go into that negative attitude, my hands would start shivering, I would have sweat, and I would not be able to work properly. So the attitude, the skills, the knowledge. Skills cannot be developed without knowledge. You have to have basic knowledge which will help you develop the skills. Your attitude is your approach. And finally, these, along with something which you do routinely, is habits. And that is how you create a holistic development, which we talk about.
Correct. Thank you so much for defining it in such a few words. And
Go ahead.
here is somebody who has joined late. He wants to know that what about life skills? Were you actually mentioning? Okay, that would take a lot of time. If we go ahead with that. But yes, would you like to now tell us? Is it possible for teachers to take up life skills at any stage of a student's life? Is it particularly meant for a particular level? When the students come to that level, is it high school? Is it before that? Or is it right from the time he enters the school?
Awesome. So, wonderful question. Let me just take a minute's time to showcase what all you should develop in the child, and then I'll definitely come back to from, in fact, zero age, 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16. I'll give you very clear points about what all should be developed in the child, right? So, I'll do that. Let me just share with you a screen. Is this something which is visible on the screen which says holistic development in life skills classroom? Yeah.
Yes,
So
please.
yeah. So let me just talk about this, and then I'll take you into every step of it. So when we say
So
holistic,
the only request would be to quickly do it because we have another session after half an hour. So we just
okay.
want to, yeah.
So another 10 minutes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So when we talk about holistic development in a life skill classroom, these are the four basic dimensions which you should look at. Right? So what are these four basic dimensions? We talk about the thinking of the child, we talk about the doing, the feeling, and the growing part of the child. So these are four areas, four dimensions which we should really look at. And in each of these dimensions, we could go in depth. Now, looking at those models and now looking at it from the child angle. So when we talk about from the thinking angle, there are two various basic things. One is the thinking quotient, and second is the learning quotient part of it. What's thinking quotient? So thinking quotient would have all those skills which everyone was talking about in all those previous models. It talks about critical thinking, it talks about problem solving, decision making, creativity, innovation, analytical skills, and all teachers and parents who are here who are interested in developing these thinking skills. There's a wonderful book by Edward de Bono on Six Thinking Hats, one of the very wonderful books. One of the top thinkers in the world has written it, and you could use those books and learnings from there to build a thinking quotient in the child. Learning quotient. We have always taught children in schools, but how about teaching children how to learn? Building their curiosity, helping them to become lifelong learners, developing their learning skills on how to learn various topics is the second important element in learning. Then comes is doing. And doing begins with communication, their behavior, and nowadays the digital world. So everything here would have a set of further skills. So when you talk about communication, it is the basic communication essentials on how to do talk, write, verbal, non-verbal behavior, etc. The cultural awareness, the social and interpersonal skills, very important in the global world. And then comes the behavioral quotient part of it. Collaboration, social awareness and responsibility, self-direction, personal management, productivity, flexibility, planning skills, teamwork, and just not this, you even have to look at the social world nowadays, right? So it is the digital literacy, the information technology skills, media literacy, data management and analysis, social media etiquettes, online safety and security of children, which is something which is equally important. So these were the doing, the thinking skills which we looked at. Now from these two quotients, let's go to the third and the fourth quotient part of it, the being and the feeling part of it. When you talk about being and feeling, the emotions, the spiritual and the health, three very important things which we should look at. The world leaders did not really look at health quotient much, primarily because they were looking at people who would come to work for them. But this is from the child equally important when we look at the initiative taking, the persistence and grit, the adaptability, the conflict management, empathy. Even in spiritual, when we talk about the leadership, being an ethical citizen, values and beliefs, taking care of civic responsibility, about environment, about nutrition, first aid management, disaster and crisis, and even self-defense. These are part of the health of the child. And this is something which we have to really look forward in the dimension 3, that is the being and feeling part of it. And finally, the growing and the developing is the vocational and the financial quotient part of it, where we really look at the budgeting skills, the healthy relationship with money, wealthy money habits, and money management skills. Forwardly, when you look at the child to develop the future, the career part of it, that's where we really look at the vocational skills, the purpose, aspirations, and desires, being goal oriented, and the entrepreneurial mindset. So I wanted to bring this out for you all, just to look at it in a very broad way, for the basic reason these are the basic things which we all have to really look at. These are 9 or 10 different quotients which really come forward as a holistic development of the child. And when the child uh, or the parent is ready to look at all this, you can now look at how to develop it across in different ways. Shilpi, any questions have come up, or should I take more 5 minutes?
No, there are no more questions. I think they're rather
Good.
appreciative of the presentation.
Okay. So I'll just then take you forward to what is required in the classrooms and how to really implement it. Like we talked about, it is not just to be done in the, here you go, in life skill, but it has to be done totally. So this is what we talked about. And now look at what is the classroom. This is pre-COVID classroom, if I may talk about, if I may say. Right here is the teacher who is in the center near the board, who is kind of the saint, who is giving all instructions. All students are sitting along, everybody is learning. It is kind of learning through textbooks, kind of the teacher tells what to do. It is small periods, it just happens in the classroom. This is something which is through the design for excellence, as through a public school which has come up. What actually has to happen in the classroom is this, that it has to now go to blended learning, post-COVID, as we may call it. Now, why do we call it this way? Because now the learning can happen anywhere, anytime. The teacher does not really need to explain and do everything. The teacher needs to be a facilitator, a person on the side who really monitors how the activities are happening, how people are learning from each other, how there are discussions happening, how much engaged people are. And then they're just not engaged one-to-one in a classroom, they're also digitally engaged, and they're learning through it. Now, if I say this, what I intend to say is that it doesn't have to be a life skills class, because in a life skills class, you just teach knowledge, or maximum you bring in certain skills. But what about the attitude and the habits development? The attitudes and the habit development has to happen in every class. It just cannot happen that, okay, out of 8 classes, you have 1 class which is related to life skills. You go there and learn. You go there and watch videos, play games, and you learn a topic and you come back. Or you learn certain definitions and you come back. Or you start using the vocabulary, that's it. No, that's just the base. That is the level 1 part of it. That's the knowledge part of it. That's where the knowledge builds, but the skills and the attitude and the habit is to be done in every class. And that's where I say that only 1 class of life skills or holistic development, whatever you may want to call it, is not sufficient. It is necessary, but it becomes good when every individual follows it. And what do we mean by every individual? Here is the key slide for you all. So if you want to develop your knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits, that is holistically in 0 to 4 years of student, this is what you need to know and what you need to do. What do you really need to know is that the child here, if you can look at, you need to understand what the child's behavior is. This is on the screen, which you can see what the child is like. This is through research, this is through observations, that there is literature about it, that 0 to 4 years child, how does he behave? They are watching, they are always listening, they are not reasoning at all, they are just feeling it, they are expressing it a bit, they are ready to imitate, they are ready to copy whatever comes in. They will master with time. They are not ready to master. They don't have any existing habits. They will just follow your language and style. And once I know this, these are the four areas where you could really build them. Let me give you a few key of them, and then we can go to Q&A. Like telling them stories, talking to them, helping them touch and taste, or even playing soothing music helps build their knowledge about music, about stories, about things around them. Even touch and feel helps them build their senses. And this is all what we need to do with these small young children, 0 to 4 years. The attitude part of it is what they feel, and they can feel that you love for them, that they can feel that you care for them. You need to listen to them and acknowledge them. When a child talks, when he mumbles mama mama papa papa, you need to look into the eye contact, and nod and say yes yes, and that is something which they want to, they need to feel safe. So reduce the use of no. And whenever you talk about stories, discuss the moral of the stories as well. This age is something which is where the formative age is, where you can discuss about the morals, etc. When you talk about skills, all psychomotor skills should be done. Playing, dancing, singing, doing things with them, and repeat, repeat, repeat. They don't get bored. 0 to 4 years ke children ke saath you can do n number of times the same things. And when you want to form habits, create and follow routines. Be a role model. Demonstrate to them. Speak in multiple languages, and that is how their habits get formed. Now, if I take you further from here to the next age group, which is 4 to 8 years old, and this 4 to 8 years old are now bigger, right? As per Waldorf's theory, from 0 to 7, they are just doing, and at 7, they start feeling. So that's where they have started feeling. They have started a bit of reasoning. They are inquisitive. They are wondering and imagining. They do not know what to do about it. But if you tell them, okay, this is something, and they'll start imagining it, they'll start creating it in their mind. Now they are observing choices which people are making around them. They are ready to take actions. Whatever you do, they will do. Whether you say or not, they will keep learning something or the other. So it's very important to seed here, because if you don't seed, weeds will grow. And that's very natural farming, isn't it? And they have started having small choices, because now they'll say, nahi, ye acha nahi hai, this is good, this is not good. 0 to 4, they did not have choices, right? You did not let them have, but they did not know really what is a choice. But now they have started looking at choices. They are seeking validation from parents, from their teachers, etc. So what do? To build knowledge, talk with them instead of talk to them. That is, now there is a discussion. You say something and you listen to something. Now the stories have to be different. You just don't have to tell stories. You could together listen to podcasts, to stories. You could read, you could watch stories. You could read comic books together with characters of human, animated, etc. You could discuss historical incidents and about historical people. Very important in this 4 to 8 years of age. This is the time where history sounds so wonderful for children, and we miss teaching them history over here. We should teach history, personalities, and everything over here. How does attitude form? By reflecting on stories. So you tell a story and then you put up questions. You say, okay, usne aisa kyun kiya hoga? Why did this happen? What do you think would have happened next? What should she have done? What should he have done? And this is reflection on stories, where the child is now started talking, and they will have their views, and then you can smile and you could appreciate, and you can hug and say, wow, what a perspective, and they feel good. Discuss consequences of actions. Isko haath lagaya to kya hoga? Aisa kiya to kya hoga? They are seeking information. And that is where guidance and advice is important.
Sumit, sorry to interrupt, but can you just wind it
Yeah.
up early?
Yes, ma'am. Here you go. So these are for 4 to 8 years, and then there is 8 to 12 years old. So 8 to 12 years old are now bigger. You need to be aware of them, that they are making choices. They are very clear about what they want. They are expressing their feelings. So you have to now create what if scenarios. Stories गायब हो चुकी हैं. Do role plays and team games with them, and appreciate their routines. Shortlist a few sports from them. Discuss what if scenarios, needs and benefits, and stop advising and start mentoring, because they do not want your advice. And 12 to 16 years, these are all teens, and they have already formed their habits. They have their choices, they have an attitude, they have a personality now. And now is the time where you facilitate learning. You discuss benefits, you discuss and debate, you give them choices for expression, you build partnerships in rights and responsibilities, you acknowledge their efforts and assess them. So this is all what you do with 12 to 16-year-old students as well. So the classroom is just not that it has to happen only and only in the life skills class. These all things have to happen in every class, whether you call it history class, English class, science class, or you don't call it any class. The holistic development, or when you call it the life skills, has to happen in every class, in every way, at home or in school.
Thank you so much, Mr. I mean, it was like you gave such a detailed presentation, and you had put in such a lot of hard work to make 2 to 3 presentations just to clarify this topic. I mean, so thank you once again for taking out time and also, putting in such a lot of effort on this topic. So, hoping to see you once again in the near future, and have a good evening. Well, with the rest of our audience, please stay tuned in. There's another session coming up for the World Day of Social Justice. We have none other than Ms. Kulsum Mustafa, who had been the senior journalist with Times of India, coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shilpi.